Welcome to the latest episode of FoodTech Stories. I'm your host, FoodTech marketing expert Megan Thomas. FoodTech Stories features the leaders pioneering new approaches to technology, collaboration, and storytelling in the food tech and ag tech space. Food and agricultural changing, and fresh ideas and leadership are needed to sustainably feed the growing global population. Join us every other week as we talk to a founder, operator, or visionary in food and agriculture. Today, my guest is Laura Katz, and Laura is the CEO and founder of Helaina. And Helaina is a company that works at the intersection of food tech, biotech, and nutrition. Welcome to the podcast, Laura.
Thanks for having me, Megan.
Wonderful. So, what first drew you to entrepreneurship?
I started when I was young and really interested in food as a child, 12, 13 years old, trying to make and sell baked goods out of my parents' house. I've always been entrepreneurial, I think naturally. I don't know that I would have pegged that as what I was doing as a child. I think I just really enjoyed food and bringing it to people. And as a consequence of that, I was selling it. I remember I danced in a dance studio where I both danced and taught dance at the time when I was in high school, and I would sell baked goods to parents for their kids. I would always be bringing in different things that I cooked to the studio. I spent a lot of time there. Something in me, I think, from a young age. I now have business cards that I look back on and laugh at because I made them when I was a teenager selling different services. I always innately felt really connected to building my own business, being my own business. And when I started working in the world after I graduated with my master's degree, I always knew I wanted to eventually start my own business. I always knew it was going to be something breast milk related, which sounds kind of funny and interesting, but that was always something I was very drawn to and passionate about. It was many, many years in the making before Helaina, from when I was a child, that I always enjoyed having some type of business.
And I think that's a common theme for many entrepreneurs is that it goes back into childhood. Did you learn any lessons from those early entrepreneurial ventures you apply to your startup today?
I may have been 18, so I wasn't that young, but certainly still new. I catered an event for a friend of my mom's. It was a lot for one person to do. There was platters of all different kinds of things. I did that out of my mom's kitchen, and I remember it getting really stressful down to the wire. I was up really late the night before, and I was just scrambling to get all of these things done. And it was a big event. It was like 50 plus people. I was the caterer. I was bringing these platters for this person. I just remember thinking I can't do this by myself again. It was just a lot to take on as a single person. And you think, especially as a young person, oh, I'll figure it out. I'm going to get it done. But what I learned from that is just how important it is to build a team. You're starting a company that this is your thing. And this is truly not just me. This, especially at Helaina, has grown to be something that we couldn't do without all the people around us. It's not possible to make the impact that we are hoping to have as an organization without surrounding yourself by excellent folks. Honestly, what's fun about it is I get to learn from super smart people every day. Selfishly, it's so fun to have a great team, but I think that was one of the early lessons that stands out to me when I started Helaina, of how important it is to surround by the best people you can.
Let's turn to the work of Helaina. So, what is your mission and what are you looking to achieve?
We want to bring human bioactives to every baby and adult in the world. Our goal really is to help people with the foods and the supplements that they eat to live a healthier life. We fundamentally believe that the bioactive proteins that our body produces can unlock better health moving forward. What we produce innately is designed for us, by us. All of what we do is inspired by mother's milk and colostrum, which is the world's first food, and really specifically designed to build our immune system for the first time, build our gut and start our life with a healthy gut for the first time, build our brain, build our entire body. If we can bring the value of this milk to nutrition moving forward, we can change the trajectory of people's health through the food and the supplements they eat.
Definitely an emerging field. So, why choose to replicate human lactoferrin specifically?
Lactoferrin is the most abundant protein in colostrum and human colostrum. It's actually found in human colostrum at 50 times higher concentration than bovine colostrum. So our body has evolved to need this protein. After colostrum, the first few days that mom produces milk, it turns into what we would consider regular milk, where lactoferrin levels are still quite high. They're 10 to 30 times higher than what's found in cow's milk. We've evolved to need this protein. We go on to produce it in our body from birth through the end of life. It's found all over our body, in our sweat, in our tears, in our saliva, throughout the female reproductive tract. It's really everywhere. It's found in our brain, gut, and the protein lactoferrin is really important as a first line of defense for our body. One of the key mechanisms it has is binding iron and taking it away from things that may infect us. And that's how baby's immune system first is trained. Through this mechanism of being able to bind and move iron around the body, it plays a really important role in our overall health and well-being. And for us, that was a great first target of the proteins that we wanted to replicate.
Fantastic. That was a very clear description, and I appreciate you breaking that down. You have a product that you're selling today, an ingredient product. Can you tell us a little bit about the product?
Afera is our first product. It's a replica of human lactoferrin. Afera human lactoferrin, as you'll see it in the market, is something that has the same structure and function as what our body produces naturally. So it's really the best way for us to be able to tap into the body's ability to make this protein by replicating it and selling it as a food ingredient. It's really pure. Afera is mostly just lactoferrin, human lactoferrin with some moisture in there because it comes in powder form. We sell it into all different types of food and beverage and nutritional applications. And we have several customers in the market right now focused on wellness products, performance nutrition, and women's health, where you can actually go buy products that contain our Afera.
Working in the food tech space myself and in talking with founders and others in that ecosystem, the pivot from being a purely R&D focused organization to being a commercial organization is quite a shift, and not every company makes it successfully across that chasm. What have you learned from this experience of that pivot from becoming an R&D focused organization to becoming a more commercially focused organization?
I'll start by saying it's incredibly difficult. It is a shift in how you think about showing up to work every single day. It's not just a science experiment in the lab. We've always had a commercial lens because if you create great science but can't apply that commercially, I mean, it still might be great science, but you're not changing people's lives if you can't bring it to market. That's always been something that we've brought to the front of our conversations with the team here, and it's really a team mindset. We use fermentation, precision fermentation, as the tool to replicate these proteins. With fermentation, the really exciting thing about the technology is you can constantly develop it so that you're improving your productivity when you're producing your ingredient, and that helps you drive down the overall cost. As we started to make this transition from being really R&D focused to being commercial, we changed how we talked about our own internal goals and KPIs. We weren't just talking about productivity anymore with our technical team. We were talking about cost of goods. Because why do we care about improving the productivity? We want to improve our cost of goods. And why do we want to improve our cost of goods? Because we want to make this accessible. This can't be something that is so expensive that it's out of reach for everybody forever. All new technology typically start premium, but if we look at our team and we say, hey, how much money are you spending on a supplement? And what does that mean to you? People can start to contextualize it in terms of being in the consumer seat. As soon as we started to shift how we spoke about our R&D KPIs and goals and metrics, and we framed it with commercial type language, I think it really made the team, our technical team, start to really understand, hey, we're going to go sell this. And that was a really big shift for us as a company. So it's just really the way that we talk to each other. I would say that's number one. And number two is growing our commercial team. We were a group of scientists for so long. We started to bring on sales and marketing and all of these different types of experts in the space, and working with them and integrating them with the team has been really important. I will say we're not perfect. to figure out how we really cross collaborate internally between different types of stakeholders is still something that we're learning. We have a long way to go to become excellent at that, but we've definitely gotten over maybe like the 0 to 1 phase of commercial. Now it's going from 1 to 2 is not a small step, but we'll get there, I think.
I appreciate your candor. Certainly, in my experience, language and the use of language and how the different functions use language differently can be a real challenge, as can be the pace and the cadence and what milestones look like across those organizations. So it's great that you're taking a holistic approach and thinking through that and appreciating that it is a major transition. What has surprised you the most about going through this experience to date?
There's little surprises every single day. Almost everything is solvable. You'll figure out the technology, how to sell, you'll create the right marketing message or maybe the wrong one, and then you'll learn from that. What's been really surprising is just how challenging and also rewarding it is to build a great team and culture. The team is what makes us who we are. Companies are just groups of people. It's really hard to get a team together that works well, that embodies the culture. And like, we are so imperfect at this. We're constantly learning. And I would say just how much time I spend thinking about the team, making sure that we have the right people and we're growing our people internally at Helaina, and that all of that falls into place as best as we can, I think has been maybe not surprising because I've always been so focused on team, but perhaps the amount of mind share it takes for me and I think our entire leadership team has been really surprising, because you think, okay, well, we're just going to put our head down and work, but it's so much more than that. Building a company is so much more than that.
Absolutely. How big is your team now?
We're almost 50 people.
So definitely a sizable team. And how would you describe the culture that you're building?
I'll say the culture we're trying to build, because we're never going to be perfect, is one of empathy. We have core values at Helaina. We have 6 core values, and I'm not supposed to play favorites, but I do. And that is being one of our key core values. When we talk about empathy, this isn't just sympathy of feeling bad for somebody when something happens to them. It's how do I put myself in somebody else's shoes? Think about things from their perspective and try to interact with them and interact with the world, taking that into consideration. That's key to why we're here doing what we're doing. When I think about why I started Helaina, it was hearing about the lengths people go from all walks of life, cancer patients and bodybuilders and people with all different health conditions, just trying to get their hands on breast milk. I was interested in the composition and the science behind breast milk, but I never had that experience. But I really had to try to think, what does that mean for them? And how can I help? Taking that perspective as we work together as a team and as we bring this product to the market and we really understand the consumer lens of why does this matter to them? What are they going through? I think having empathy through our work is the type of business that we're trying to be. And it's really difficult. It's not easy to be empathetic. It's so much easier to come into work, to put your blinders on, to do what you need to do. But I don't think that builds resilient businesses.
And do you think about that empathy value externally as well? Is that something you bring to your partners or customers?
When we think about we have customers and we want to help them with their product, we work with small and large businesses selling our Afera. What we find is really successful is if we say, okay, you're a small team, maybe we're selling to a startup. Maybe they need support on formulating the product, or we try to understand where they are in the world of what is helpful for them, and then we meet them where they need to be met. That's really core of who we are, is being empathetic. And as we make decisions as a company, we're thinking about the core values we have and how this fits within them. We do our best. Again, I always say we're not perfect because it's hard to always be thinking about the person on the other side and put yourself in their shoes. But I do think that it helps us make really informed decisions that have been imperative for our success to date.
Fantastic. So, what is your go to market strategy?
We're currently starting to sell our Afera into the nutraceutical space. Nutraceuticals, food and beverage products, really focused on performance nutrition, women's health, healthy aging, and selling the ingredient B2B to these companies who are, I would say, thought leaders or emerging winners in the space. Have several products that have launched in the market. So far, they've been quite successful. We're focused on early adopters. people who are really tuned into their own health and are looking to make an improvement in their overall well-being. Right now, that's the focus we have today. We're also I'll say in the background, just because it's a longer path to market, working on bringing our lactoferrin into infant nutrition, where, of course, I mean, it seems very obvious. This is one of the key drivers of what makes breast milk so special. And we're working on what it takes to get into infant nutrition. It is a long road to market. There are additional regulatory requirements, safety requirements, and testing that we are doing background, but we're currently in market in nutraceuticals.
Understood. And infant nutrition is a very consolidated industry here in the US as well. A handful of big players. That's fascinating. Glad to hear you've had early traction. So, you talked about meeting your partners, customers where they are. So, how else are you applying what you're learning, what you're hearing from your partners as you go through this process of commercialization? And how are you then applying that to your strategy for building your business?
Customer feedback is what is driving so much of our commercial strategy. You can make something, but if the customer doesn't care about it, it's kind of obsolete. It doesn't matter. One way that we're really using customer feedback to inform our strategies on the clinical side of things. Lactoferrin has so many different functionalities. Sometimes it seems like a buffet of an ingredient. It just does so much. That's not actually helpful when we go to sell this. We need to be really focused and targeted as we sell this into the market and we hear from customers what they're interested in seeing from a clinical perspective. Perhaps it's the role that lactoferrin plays in iron regulation or in gut health and the way it helps to improve our tight junction proteins in the gut. We take this feedback and we really directly implement it in our clinical strategy. We have a few different clinical studies going on at the moment that's really informed by what customers are interested in learning more about. That allows us to then bring this data to them to help them along the journey of how they would want to communicate benefits of this ingredient to their end customer. That to us is really paramount to the overarching strategy because we can test all kinds of things. But kind of as I said earlier, science for science doesn't actually make a commercial successful ingredient. And it's really those insights from customers that drive a lot of the work that we do.
We hear a lot about gut health and certainly the impacts of GLP-1 drugs on diets and such. Would you say that that's the area that your customers today are most interested in? Or do you find that there's a mix of interest in terms of iron regulation or other benefits you may be delivering?
It depends.
Fair enough.
Gut health is really interesting for us because lactoferrin does a few things interestingly in the gut that we're exploring. So it helps to take iron away from the things that may try to infect us, pathogens. With that, it could help to decrease pathogenic bacterial species in the gut and improve the better bacteria, the good for us bacteria in our gut, providing microbial balance. That is so important for several different functions, and that's something that we're finding people are really interested in. It also helps to improve the gut barrier integrity. So you have these tight junctions that help to keep the integrity of your gut sound, and lactoferrin aids in that process, supports that process so that things don't pass in and out of the gut too freely in an unregulated way. That is of interest to customers, and we're actually studying that at the moment, seeing some really interesting data. The gut is an area that we're really well focused on. There's also a really interesting opportunity for us in women's health where lactoferrin is actually mediated by estrogen in the body. So we're always producing lactoferrin. Our body is producing it throughout life. And with it being estrogen mediated, what we see in the literature is that lactoferrin levels internally decline as we age and go through perimenopause and that long period of health journey. As lactoferrin levels decrease and estrogen levels decrease during that time, we start to see inflammatory-based symptoms like frozen shoulder and other things where a hypothesis could be that decreasing lactoferrin levels we don't have as much anti-inflammatory function protein, which is, I think it's fascinating. And could supplementation of our Afera during that time in life really help to support and alleviate some of these symptoms? So the entire female health journey, as estrogen levels fluctuate throughout our whole life, not just in perimenopause, but in a prenatal setting when estrogen levels are really high, but iron demand is high as your blood volume increases during pregnancy. There's a lot of different opportunities for us in that space to really make a difference in a way that we have not seen in the supplement space in a very long time. I mean, there's been a lot of innovation, but this for us feels really game changing.
Women's health, just like femtech, there's such ground to be covered to deliver more innovation. So I'm excited to see what you all can deliver. I think that sounds fascinating. Do you have any data or insights around consumers and what consumers perceive of lactoferrin? I would assume the average consumer does not have any general knowledge of it, but what have you learned so far and how are you applying that as you go forward?
The colostrum industry right now is blowing up. A lot of folks are buying colostrum for the immune benefits that colostrum has, the gut health benefits that it has. So we're seeing a lot of tailwinds from the consumer who may be interested in colostrum but want something that's perhaps more ethical than taking colostrum away from the baby cows, that has better bioavailability. We know that this is human. We've shown it breaks down and it's digested just like the native human protein. The message is resonating with consumers that want a nutrient that's smarter. It works harder for you than anything else. We have early indications as this is still new in the market. So we definitely want to hear more feedback from customers and anybody in the audience. If you've tried a product, please reach out to us and we want to know. But so far positive. We've had a couple customers place reorders. So for us, that's the metric of success. What is resonating right now is the benefits that this provides and the closeness it is to something our body recognizes.
Having greater bioavailability, I imagine, is a great differentiator. Do you then rely on your partners to do the education around lactoferrin, or are you working hand in hand with them in some way?
Hand in hand, depending on the partner and what they're looking for. Education is going to be a big focus for us as a company over the next 18 to 24 months. Other ingredient innovations in the last decade or 2 decades, they don't become household names overnight. Collagen, for example. You go back 10 years ago, collagen was not necessarily something that everybody was taking and everybody knew about. You think about collagen in terms of like, my body produces it, but it did take some time educationally for people to say collagen, skin, hair, and nails. Easy. People have that association. It does more than that, but you can pin it to that. Another interesting arc would be creatine, which is still becoming more part of the zeitgeist within nutrition. 10 years ago, the only people taking creatine were bodybuilders. And now creatine is becoming much more prolific and the benefits of it for mental clarity, for female reproductive system. There's a lot of interesting data coming out on that. I think it's still early, but it takes time to educate the consumer. And we have a lot of work to do there to really explain what this nutrient means within the world of all the different things they consume. But we're certainly interested and do some work with the partners that we have to help on the educational front and leverage our scientific knowledge and the clinical work that we do to help them educate.
Focusing on the nutrient and thinking about how you build awareness about that and demonstrate how it's relevant to people's lives is very wise. I think many in the food tech space are focused on the process they use and maybe a little less so on the product. The average consumer just doesn't have the language and maybe not the interest. And so I think you're right on track with that.
That's spot on. We use fermentation, make our ingredient, but so does omega-3s. It's an algae-based fermentation. And so do B vitamins. And so do industrial enzymes. And so do all of these different things that we consume all the time. What does the end consumer care about is what does this do for me?
That's right.
We make something nutritional. We make something that has immune impact and gut impact and does so many things for our body. That's what we're focused on. The process allows us to get there. But if you look at apple processing, no one's talking about how they're adding the wax onto the outside of the apples. If we just think in like a very basic way, that process is not something that we shine a light on. Sure, is it a sophisticated biotech process that is really advanced. Yes, it is. It requires a lot of work to figure it out. But for us, what's most important is that we make something that has function. We show it has function. We continuously study it and run clinical research that can be used by the end consumer to understand what it's going to do for them.
And the data I've seen shows that about a quarter of consumers may want to get more information about processing, but the other 75% is just not thinking about it, right? And they're thinking about the things you just listed there, Laura. Thank you. So looking to the future of your field or of the industry, what are you most excited about?
I'm really excited to change people's health with food in a way we haven't had access to in the past. Look at the evolution of nutrition. I mean, nutrition is a very young field. You could say 100, 150 years. That feels like a long time. It really isn't. From when we really discovered what the calorie was or named it to where we are today, I think we're just scratching the surface of bioactive ingredients. So when I say bioactive, I mean things that impact our biology more than just providing basic nutrition, calories, vitamins, minerals, protein, carbohydrates, fats. So energy sources, things that are going to really modulate our overall biology and help us feel healthier through food as opposed to using other types of means to get there. That makes me really excited. Using food as a tool to advance our health, be almost prophylactic in how we think about our health as opposed to being treatment oriented, which is where the pharmaceutical industry comes in, which always has a role and is important. What we can unlock with our technology and with these types of bioactives is preventing things from happening in the first place by being overall and supporting overall health.
Yeah, definitely with the proactive wellness approach. I completely agree. If people want to find out more about your startup, where should they go?
Find us on our website online. Follow us on LinkedIn if there's anybody here listening interested in connecting with us. Our LinkedIn page is very active. People can reach out to me directly. So it's laura@myhelaina.com. My inbox is open. I am hearing from all kinds of people. We're a small company, and I want to be able to interact with scientists who are interested in the science, commercial folks that may want to join our team, customers who have ideas. If there's anybody here who thinks, oh, maybe you should study this different clinical outcome with your Afera, just email me.
Anything else you want people to know?
Go buy some Afera. There's a lot of products in the market. A few launches coming up. If there's any formulators in the audience, if you want to buy this and put it in your product, please reach out.
Wonderful. Well, I enjoyed our conversation. Thanks for chatting with me today, Laura.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks for joining us today on the latest episode of FoodTech Stories. Be sure and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform and keep an eye out for our bi-weekly episodes. I'm your host, Megan Thomas, founder of Ladris 17. FoodTech Stories is edited by TJG Media.